Rob Ninkovich, former Brady teammate, was on ESPN this week, and Ninkovich suggested, and he was kind of subtle, but, Ninkovich is a guy who's kind of in the know, and he said some things this year that make you think, what does he really know, whether it's the Patriots or whatever, people that he knew while he was playing. He said it wouldn't surprise me if Tom Brady walked away after the season. What else does he have to prove? Well, I mean, his wife's been telling him that for 5 years now, but it just seemed odd to me because Brady's made it clear he's going to play through 2022. He's made it clear he's going to do that and then assess what he's going to do after that. So this was just kind of a strange curveball. And what really put it on my radar screen, let's have a listen to how Byron Leftwich, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, handled a question about what Ninkovich had said during a press conference on Thursday.
I mean, I don't know him. Didn't really hear the comment, but Tom's playing at a high level, man. I'll leave it at that.
Look, I don't want to work too hard to read between the lines here, but Brady has said he's playing through next year. He's said it. But wouldn't it be the all-time great setup? Because I know from people that I've talked to over the years, he never wants to have a Derek Jeter year where it's all about him. He never wants to have a farewell tour. He never wants to be the center of attention. I think what happened with Ben Roethlisberger a couple of weeks ago, that would make Brady's skin crawl. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want it to be about him. It's about team. What better way to avoid that from ever happening than set up an ending point to your career, 2022, and then we'll decide what to do after that and never even get to 2022. That's why there's a little sliver of me that's thinking maybe Ninkovich really is onto something here, and maybe Brady is going to stun all of us, especially if they win a Super Bowl, by saying, that's it, I'm done.
Maybe. I mean, I think this is one of those things. Remember the old spy versus spy where, I'm going to make this move. It's like in a game of chess. You saw it in Queen's Gambit. What an incredible show it was, where you're thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead, 7 or 8 moves ahead. And I think sometimes in this business, and again, I have no idea what Rob Ninkovich knows. He knows more inside stuff about the Patriots and about Brady than I know. But I just know this, that if Tom Brady walks away, at least in my opinion, just gut feeling, it won't be because, he doesn't love football or it won't be because he really doesn't want to play anymore. I don't know why he would do that. He was very clear to me in training camp that not in any words that were spoken. I mean, I'd be very surprised if this is his last year. Very.
Oh, I would be too.
Yeah. Again, I do want to just say one thing about this, okay? So Tom Brady also understands, and I think a lot of what we hear in Brady with Man in the Arena and stuff about his personal life, and he's so much more into his family, or so into his family. I shouldn't say so much more into. He's always, been very much a family person. I do think that the only thing that could throw a wrench into this is if he really, truly feels deep inside that I need to be more fair to my family. That's the only way he would do this, because he is playing at such a high level. He's playing not like he's 44, but like he's 24. So there'd be no football reason, and he worships football. He loves this game. So I think if he does quit, it has to have something to do with family. That's all I would think. And I wouldn't view it really, quit is really kind of, it almost denigrates what Brady would do. If he retires, I should say, I think it'd have to do with family rather than football.
And he's mentioned that tension. On one hand, he never wants to watch football and say, I could still be doing it. These guys suck. I'm better than them. Why am I not out there? On the other hand, how much of the evolution of your family do you want to miss when you're playing this far into your life? Everybody else has tapped out, not by choice, but because of Father Time, because there's somebody younger, better, faster, cheaper, whatever. Other guys don't have the luxury of having to carry this burden into their 40s, into their mid-40s, where another year of making the commitment, another year of being away, another year of being all in from January until July to keep your body in the right overall condition so you're ready to go. How many of those can you take before you wake up one day and your kids are out of the house? I mean, I think that is the other side of it. And that maybe would be the thing that would do it. And Peter, you were touching on something earlier, and I think this is the point you were trying to make. And if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me. Ninkovich didn't act like he was sharing anything. He didn't say, a source told me this. He was presenting it as his own, don't be surprised if this happens. And without going too far into how we make our sausage, you and I both know that there are plenty of times that somebody tells us something with the understanding that we can't report it, we have to present it as our own idea, just to provide that extra layer of cover. And some people may be shocked by that, but sometimes the things we present as our ideas aren't really our ideas. There's somebody telling us something, saying, go ahead and use it as your idea, but don't report it. So that's kind of what flashed for me when you were talking about Ninkovich. Maybe Ninkovich knows something that he's been sworn to not ever say, but he hasn't been told, don't present this as your own idea.
Hey, look, there's one other factor in this, Mike, that everybody really marvels at Tom Brady playing until he's 44. Or, if he does play next year, play until he's 45. But I just want to remind everybody that how different the game is. In football in 2021, now 2022, when an errant hand brushes up against a quarterback's helmet, it's 50-50 whether that's going to be called blow to the head, 15 yards. And every time a quarterback goes down, even if it's natural, even if he just barely momentarily releases it and then he gets hit, he's looking at the referee standing behind him in the field of play, and he's looking for that flag. So just understand how different this game is. A couple of weeks ago for an NBC thing for the Super Bowl pregame show, I had a long talk with Terry Bradshaw, and you'll see the piece on the pregame show. But what was so interesting is how Terry Bradshaw empathizes so much with sort of the era of quarterbacks when, quarterbacks were regular football players, and now today it's kind of like tackle everybody else, two-hand touch on the quarterback. And that's an exaggeration. Quarterbacks can get drilled. We all see it. But it happens so seldom now. And the NFL, about 8 or 10 years ago, came up with this plan, Mike. I remember at league meetings, they came up there saying, we have to protect the quarterback better. And it drove almost every decision that the competition committee made. And I'm exaggerating, but it drove so many decisions. And so right now, a quarterback can go through a season and maybe take 1 or 2 really big hits the entire year instead of 1 or 2 big hits in a half when Terry Bradshaw played.
And nowadays, when we see a quarterback take an old school big hit, even if everything about it is fully within the confines of the rules, and there are like 7 different ways you can commit roughing the passer, but if it's a clean legal hit, but it's just too devastating of a hit, what happens? Flag comes out because it looks like something should be wrong with it. It looks like the kind of hit that is out of the game now, even though nothing about that hit, when you break it down, violates the rules. And we've seen it. It's all over the place. Peter, I say this less and less jokingly all the time because there's so much inconsistency in the calling of roughing the passer. They should just make it like roughing the punter and roughing the kicker. Then we would know. Then we'd have no misunderstanding as to what is and isn't allowed. Once the ball's out, can't touch him. Because a lot of times, if you touch him after the ball's out, the flag's coming anyway. So why not say that's the rule? Then everybody knows you're going to get that flag. That's how bad it's gotten this year.
And look, I don't defend it at all, but I do know that in the case of quarterbacks wondering if they should play again, wondering if they should take that one more year. Look at Aaron Rodgers. What is he now, 38? I mean, Aaron Rodgers knows absolutely categorically right now that I'm sure that other than his toe, he's got to have a bump or a bruise somewhere. But he enters the middle of January, late January, feeling pretty darn good. And I can, with the exception, I think, really, of maybe Jimmy Garoppolo right now, you've got 7 out of the 8 quarterbacks left. Joe Burrow maybe with that knee tweak, but you've got 7 of the 8 quarterbacks left in these playoffs who are pretty healthy. There's no there's no John Wayne act going out there. The only guy who's really legitimately affected now is Garoppolo. That's it. And that's very, in my opinion, even 10 or 15 years ago, you look at the Final 8, the Elite 8, and you would see 3 or 4 quarterbacks who were going to have something cleaned up after the season, or who were, nursing something. And now you get to the end of the season, and the NFL's rules have done exactly what they were intended to do. Keep quarterbacks on the field so that monster TV ratings like the Dallas-San Francisco rating will keep coming and coming and coming.
2 very brief points for me before we take a break. One, the fact that Garoppolo is the one who's banged up illustrates the exasperation the 49ers have with him that he can't stay healthy, and it's one of the reasons why they traded up to get Trey Lance. 2, I think from Tom Brady's perspective, he may be keenly aware of the reality that if he signs up for another year, whatever that one more year is, there's a chance that Father Time doesn't catch you between January and July. There's a chance that Father Time finally whacks you over the head with his gigantic hourglass during a season, and you see a falling off the cliff happen during a season. That's probably the last thing Tom Brady wants, is to make an exit where he dramatically disintegrates. Only he knows what he's currently doing at age 44 and 5 months to hold it together and physically be able to go out there and compete against guys literally half his age now. But I think at some level, and again, we're in uncharted waters here. When you get to this point, I think if you're Brady, you have to be keenly aware of the possibility that between July and January of your last year, we're going one more year. July and January, Peter, it may be October, it may be November, it may be December, it may be September, but all of a sudden, that's it. It's done. It's over. Your body won't recover the way it did. Nothing you do matters. So I don't want to ever take the chance of being in that spot. That's the one factor that he has no data point to look to because nobody's ever done this before. But I think that's the one thing that would worry me if I were him, that I end up getting myself into a spot where it all falls apart in front of everyone during a season.
Well, I get that, Mike, and I think you're absolutely right, but I'll give you this proviso. Why would you think that after one of the best 3 years of the greatest career a quarterback has ever had? And we have just seen it. You look at, I would say this, if you look at both his numbers and his performance, the only year that I would look at as better than this one, absolutely, is 2007. When he threw 900 touchdown passes to Randy Moss. And so if you're Tom Brady and you see how much you're protected, and look, the open joke in the NFL is you can't touch Tom Brady anyway. That's what all defensive coordinators think. And so I just, with all due respect, I just don't think that thought goes through Tom Brady's head, because this year, at the age of 44, he was at or near the peak of his life in terms of his performance. And yes, there might be some things that we don't know that really hurt, that nag at him. But I'll just finish with this. I remember when I asked him after that Super Bowl, remember I went up and visited him in Montana about a week after the game, and we had this long conversation about playing with pain. Remember the Grady Jarrett hit in that Super Bowl? Holy cow. He hit Brady in the end zone, knocked the wind out of him, and my gosh, that was one of the biggest hits that I've ever seen a quarterback take. And Brady sort of got on all fours and got up. But we talked about how much quarterbacks have to play in pain. And he said to me right then, he goes, look, when I was like 24 or 25 years old, I felt so horrible on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after a game that I said, well, I guess if this is the price I have to pay to be a quarterback in the NFL, I guess I'll do it. But isn't there something I can do about this? And that's when he got into all the pristine eating, and he started bucking the trend. The biggest answer if you're in pain is lift more weights. No, it's flexibility, it's pliability. And for some positions, yeah, lift more weights. For a quarterback, don't. Get to be more flexible, do yoga, do all those things. And it flew in the face of everything that Bill Belichick believed in, but eventually he let him do it. And so I guess that's a long way around of saying that I don't think that thought is going through Tom Brady's head. He might be thinking of leaving for some other reason, but I doubt it's a physical one.
Well, the possibility wasn't even on my mind. It was nowhere near my radar screen until Ninkovich said what he said and Leftwich responded the way he did. Now I'm at least intrigued by what happens next whenever their season comes to an end. And in theory, it could come to an end on Sunday on NBC if the Rams can outscore the Buccaneers.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.